Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TKT Unit 2, which deals with lexes. This is the second unit from the course we're doing together in the virtual platform. So today we're going to talk about lexes. Lexes. What is lexes? Well, lexes is individual words or sets of words. For example, vocabulary items that have a specific meaning. And then, as you know, vocabulary items have different kinds of meaning. Firstly, there is this meaning that describes the thing or idea behind the vocabulary item. Let me give you an example. Think about a color. Let's think about the color blue, for example. So, how would you define this word? Well, blue is one of the primary colors, and then we can talk about yellow and red as well as being primary colors. And then there is a figurative meaning. So we think about this as a secondary idea of the word. For example, if somebody says, I'm blue today, that doesn't really mean the person has that color. That means the person feels sad, for example. So, I am blue means I am sad instead of I have the blue color in my skin, which is not common. So, those two meanings are considered to be the first one, denotation. The denotation is the first meaning of a word, and the second is the figurative meaning. It's like a secondary, a derivative definition or meaning of a word that we can understand that way. When talking about lexes, especially for this exam, it is very important for you to understand this topic based on individual definitions of words, individual definitions of terms, and examples of them. So I'm going to begin by talking about this topic and the definitions that we can see here. We have the first one. So we have synonyms. What is a synonym? A synonym is a word which has the same or nearly the same meaning as another word. For example, the words big and large, blank and empty, broad and wide, center and middle, cunning or clever, and dangerous or risky share somehow the same meaning. There are like minimal differences, and overall we can say that this is what a synonym is. Then we're gonna go into the second definition, a prefix. Think about the prefix as a meaningful group of letters added to the beginning of a root or base word to make a new word, which can be a different part of speech from the original word. For example, I have a prefix which is a or n, and then if I add it, here we have this example, atheist, meaning a person who doesn't believe in God, for example, and a would be the prefix. With ab, we have absence. With the other prefixes such as add, a, ek, s, we have examples such as admit, assist. With ante, we have antecedent or anterior. With anti, we have antibiotics or antioxidant. With auto, we have autoimmune, autonomous, or automobile. With bi, we have bifocals, bipolar. Or with circum, we have circumference and circumscribe. So think about this definition as those words, those particles you add to actual words to make new words. That's the main idea, to make new words. Another important definition is what a false friend or a cognate is. And we can define that as a word in the target language, being this case, I guess, English, which looks or sounds as if it has the same meaning as a similar word in the learner's first language. But guess what? It does not. Let me give you an example. You see the word actually. Actually looks like, in Spanish, it would be actualmente. But guess what? It is not. The word actually in English is en realidad, a decir verdad in Spanish. So if you're looking for the word actualmente in English, you can use the expression at present, which is very different. Second example, to advertise may look like advertir in Spanish, but actually it does not mean that. The real definition for advertise is anunciar, publicitar. If you want to use the word advertir, then you can use the verb to warn, I warn you, instead of advertise. And a secondary example of this would be the word advise. Advise can be considered to mean aviso, but the real meaning of advice is consejo or consejos. For aviso, we can use the word notice. That's what you faced. Or just think about what you put on a billboard, the notice for everybody to see what you want to say, which is not advice. Advice is consejos. For example, here we have another word. It says arm. Well, arm is not arma, even though it may look like. Arm means brazo. If you want to use the word arma, you can use the word gun, which is very different. My guns. I have a gun. I have a gun. Not I have an arm, and I'm going to attack you with my arm. You just say, I'm going to attack you with my gun. Then we have cartoon. Cartoon for kids. Okay, cartoon is not cartón. For, like, para una caja. Cartoon es un dibujo animado. If you want to use cartón, you might use cardboard, which is very different. And this is a step students go through when learning a second language, in this case, learning English. Then we have another definition to talk about: the process of affix or affixation. So what is this? It's a meaningful group of letters added to the beginning or end of a word to make a new word, which can be a different part of the speech from the original word. For example, we have the word do. So if I add a prefix, I get redo, undo. But then if I want to add a suffix to the word do, I get the term or the word doable. And I can add the two of them to the same word, in this case do, and I get the word undoable. So this is an example of how adding prefixes, suffixes to a word actually changes the meaning, the definition, the use of this word. An important aspect in learning a second language, as I said. Then we're going to talk about homophones. What's a homophone? It's a word which sounds the same as another word, but it has a different meaning or spelling. In this example, we have some words like I and I, bear and bear, be and be, buy and buy, sell and sell, sent and sent, and cereal and cereal. Remember, two words, completely different meanings, completely different spelling, but same pronunciation. that is the definition for homophone. And then we can proceed to the next. We're going to talk about phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs. As a teacher, I guess you may know a lot, and then you have taught this concept to your students. I know, because this is something which appears regularly in English courses. So, what is a phrasal verb? It's a verb which is made up of more than one word. Example given: a verb plus an adverb, particle, or a preposition. And what's important here is that it has a different meaning from each individual word. For example, if I take a look at this, it says look after. Look after. If I take this expression and divide it into two words, look and after, and I define this and I find the meaning for look and after, I'm going to know that the meaning, the concept, the idea behind it, it's completely different than if I just take the two words with one same meaning, look after. And there's another example, blow up. Blow up. If I have this word blow up, and I know that I'm going to take the word and define it separately, the meaning is going to be completely different from what I would get if I take the two words and define them as a unit. Another example is come apart or check out. Remember, what's important for phrasal verbs is to understand the two or three words as one unit of meaning. Okay, next definition, homonym. A homonym, it's a word with the same spelling as another word, but which has a different meaning. You might say, what? And yeah, here's an example. Think about the word band, like we can see here, band and then band. So, in the first definition, we can talk about a rock band. I belong to a rock band. I play at a rock band. Or a rubber band. A rubber band is completely different from a rock band. Even though I'm using the same word, in these two examples, it has two completely different meanings. And here's another example. The word bank. So I have bank and bank. The Bank of the River is different from the Bank of England or a bank account. The Bank of England is the place where people keep their money in England, I guess. But then the bank of a river is one part of the river, one section of the river, one portion of the river, one side of the river, which is completely different from a place where people keep their money. Then we have bark and bark. For example, the dog barked at me, meaning it did something that scared the bejesus out of me. I didn't know what to do when the dog barked at me. I wanted to run because it was a big dog. Barking dogs is the definition for a dog who barks a lot. And then the bark of a tree. The bark of a tree is one portion, one section of a tree, one part of the tree or a place next to a tree. Then we have bat. Bat. For example, somebody says, hey man, you are as blind as a bat. Meaning you can't see anything like the bat, these animals. And then we can also talk about a baseball bat. Something very different. From an animal to an object they use, I don't really play baseball that much, but they use it to hit a ball and run. Something we don't do here in this country. Then we have can and can, like I can't drink a can of beer. I can drink a can of beer. Meaning, first here, it's like an auxiliary verb, and the second definition is just an object, a noun. Our next definition now is a word family. A word family. A word family is a group of words that are related to each other by their root or base word. So think about groups of words that have some relation, and this relation is like dictated by the root of the word. How these roots are constituted actually tell me the kind of word family I have. For example, I have here a group of words, and all of them have the same root. For example, interact, interaction, interactive, interactively, interactivity. All of those words have the same root. Inter. Here in the other one, we have react. So we have the other words are like reaction, reactivate, reactivation, reactive, and reactivity. All of those words have the same root, react. Our next definition has to do with suffixes. So what is a suffix? A suffix is a meaningful group of letters added to the end of a word or a root. And then we do this to make a new word, which can be a different part of a speech from the original word. For example, we have the word hesitate, which is a verb. I hesitate. But then we can add "jen" and get hesitation. With hesitation, we go from hesitate, which is a verb, to hesitation, which is a noun. So there are some other words like explore. So we have exploration. Persuade. So we have persuasion. Divide for division. Teach for teacher. Music for musician. God for goddess. Sad for sadness. Arrive for arrival, and treat for treatment. So, remember, you can make up any word from a root word in a suffix. It can be an adverb, an adjective, any kind of, as they say, the part of the speech, and it is easier for us to just understand this way. Then we have the definition for idioms. An idiom is a group of words that are used together in which the meaning of the whole word or group of words is completely different from the meaning of each individual word. That is the definition for idioms. And here's an example. Cry over spilt milk is a complete expression, which means there's no use feeling bad for something that already happened. I mean, why? You don't really have to feel bad. It's just crying over spilled milk. The tables advocate and actions speak louder than words. If I define these words individually, I am going to have a completely different definition, which actually has nothing to do with the original primary meaning intended for the expression. Then we can talk about an antonym. Easy to handle, huh? An antonym is the opposite of another word. Like if I have the word backward, I can have the word forward. So that would be the opposite. For bad, we have good. For beautiful, we have ugly. For before, so we can say after. Begin, so we can say end. Below, above. Bend and straight. And best and worst. Just think about words that mean completely different, opposite things to the first word. That would be an antonym or an opposite. Lexical set. A lexical set is a group of words or phrases that are about the same content topic or subject. For example, I'll give you one word, house. So you might think about all the words that derivate, that come from, And here would be a good example. Living room, kitchen, bathroom, yard, garage. And for restaurant, for example, we have the words menu, table, chef, waiter, water, food, drinks, etc. One word gives me the whole concept of a group of words. And then we can proceed to a compound. A compound, it could be compound word, compound adjective, or some other definitions for compounds. And those are nouns, verbs, or adjectives, or prepositions that are made up of two or more words with one unit of meaning. For example, if I take two words like life and time, I can make up a new word being this one, lifetime. Grand and then mother, I get grandmother. Base and ball, so I get baseball. Fire and work, so I have fireworks. Pass and part, so I get passport. Sun and flower, to get sunflower. Basketball, to get basketball. Super and then structure, so I get superstructure. Moon and then light, so I get moonlight. Foot and then ball, so I get football. Rail and then road, so I get railroad. Those are compounds. Words, definitions that are usually made up of more than one word or definition. Another important word for us to define here is the root word or the base word. So, a basic word or part of a word from which other words can be made by adding a prefix or a suffix is a root word. For example, we have a root here which is act. So from act we can have other derivative words like action, activist, counteract, exact, reactionary, retroactive, transact, and transaction. Look at all those words that come from the root act. I just added a prefix or a suffix to the word, and guess what? The meaning was completely different from the original word. Another definition we have here is collocations. What is a collocation? Well, collocations are words which are regularly used together, and in this relation, that relation between the words may be grammatical or lexical. For example, we can talk about the expression make the bed, to make the bed, to do the homework, to do the housework, to take a risk, or to give someone advice. I'm going to give you some advice, for example. And those expressions are considered to be fixed. Why not do the bed instead of make the bed? That's a good question we might deal with later. But what's important here is to understand that do the bed does not exist in English. It is something fixed, and the real expression is to make the bed instead of do the bed, for example. And then last but not least, we have the concept of register. Register is the formality or informality of the language used in a particular situation. For example, if you see somebody you know, somebody you're friends with, you can say, "Hey, what's up? It's awesome that you came to visit." But what if this person is somebody that is like very formal, very important in your country, in your society, in your company? You may say things such as, "Good morning, Mr. President. We appreciate your visit," which is very different from just saying, "Hey, yeah, Mr. President, what up? How you doing?" We wouldn't do that, right? We are going to adapt a register, meaning the formality or informality of the language we speak, to the situation, to the person we have in front of us, and to the context. So it is not the same to talk to your friends or family members than doing the same thing with important or formal, serious people. And these would be the definitions for suffix. I hope you understood. I really want you to like check him back because there are many exercises we're going to be doing using these definitions. So I talk to you later. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.